Imagine a smoke alarm is blaring inside your house. Like, it is deafening. You know, that high-pitched, just relentless screech that completely scrambles your thoughts and makes your chest tight?
Oh, yeah, the kind that you feel in your teeth.
Exactly. But here's the thing, there is no fire. And furthermore, whoever built this house, they wired the alarm deep inside the walls.
So you can't just reach up and take it down.
Right. You can't reach the batteries, you can't pull the plug. So what do? Do you spend your entire life just frantic, tearing at the drywall, smashing the ceiling with a hammer, basically completely destroying your own home, just trying to silence an alarm that literally cannot be silenced?
Which is what most of us would do, honestly.
Totally. Or do you find a way to live in the house with the noise? I want to offer you a proposal today, and it might sound, well, incredibly radical at first, but if you really sit with it, it can completely alter how you experience your daily reality.
It's a big promise, but it's true.
It is. So here it is. You and your thoughts are not the same thing.
It sounds like a philosophical riddle, right? But it is actually a profound biological and psychological truth.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people listening, that might seem self-evident on a purely intellectual level. I mean, we all know we have a subconscious. We know our brains generate random noise.
Sure, we took Psych 101.
Right. But for the vast majority of us, when we are living in the trenches of, like, a really stressful Tuesday, dealing with a crisis, or coping with a body that physically hurts, it is an incredibly difficult reality to actually practice. We merge with the noise.
We walk around assuming the voice in our head is us. We assume it's just reporting the absolute objective truth about the world and our limitations. Okay, let's unpack this.
We'll do it.
Our mission today is to shatter that illusion. We are diving into a massive stack of research and clinical frameworks surrounding a psychological approach called acceptance and commitment therapy.
You'll usually hear it referred to as ACT.
Right, ACT. Now, the context of the material we're looking at is specifically designed for people dealing with chronic, relentless physical pain.
Which is a huge demographic.
Massive. But the more I dug into this deep dive, the more I realized something really crucial. The insights this framework brings to the table about the human mind, they are universally applicable.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if you've ever felt trapped by your own internal monologue, if you've ever spiraled into anxiety because of a single intrusive thought, or if you are just your own worst critic, this deep dive is for you.
The universality of this trap is actually what makes it so fascinating. But before we get into the mechanics of how our brains betray us, we should probably clarify what ACT actually means.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because those two words, acceptance and commitment, they carry a lot of cultural baggage. When most people hear the word acceptance, especially in the context of pain or suffering, they hear giving up.
Like resignation.
Exactly. They think it means waving a white flag and saying, well, my life is awful now and I just have to accept it.
Which is literally the last thing anyone wants to hear when they are suffering.
Precisely. But in this framework, acceptance is actually a highly active psychological stance. It is the conscious decision to stop fighting a war you cannot win.
So that you can use that energy for something else, right?
Yes. It is dropping the struggle with the internal experience.
Aye.
And that leads to the second word, which is commitment. Commitment isn't about committing to the pain.
No, nobody wants to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
It is about committing to your values. It's asking, what kind of life do I want to live, and how can I take action toward that life right now, even with this pain present?
I really love that distinction. It's not surrendering to the pain, it's surrendering the fight against the pain so you can get back to living.
That's the core of it.
And to understand why we fight so hard in the first place, we really have to look at how we evolved. The central argument in the source material is that the human mind is essentially this highly sophisticated problem-solution machine.
It is the defining feature of our species, honestly. We survived and conquered the globe because we possess this unparalleled ability to look at our environment, identify a threat or a deficit, and engineer a solution to eliminate it.
Like a primitive human feels the cold, that's a problem.
Right. They figure out how to build a fire solution. The cold is eliminated. You see a predator, you run or build a weapon. Problem identified, problem destroyed.
And we do this today with absolutely everything. The research points out how seamlessly this works in our modern external lives. I mean, if my car breaks down on the side of the highway, I don't just sit there and practice radical acceptance of my broken car.
No, you'd be stuck there forever.
Exactly. I apply my problem-solving engine to it. I pop the hood. I think, is it the battery? Is it the alternator? Did I run out of gas?
You run diagnostics.
Right. I tow it to a mechanic. They replace a part, and the problem is eliminated. The car drives again. This style of thinking is so incredibly effective and so deeply rewarded by society that we just naturally assume it's the universal operating system for every aspect of existence.
And that assumption right there is the exact coordinates of the misfire. This is the pivot point for understanding human emotional suffering.
Okay, walk us through that.
Well, when we take that brilliant evolutionary problem-solving model, identify the problem, attack the problem, eliminate the problem, and we turn it inward, applying it to our interior world, it backfires spectacularly.
Especially when we're dealing with something like chronic, unsolvable physical or emotional pain.
Yes.
But I have to push back here, though. Like, I want to genuinely challenge this because it feels profoundly unnatural to me. Isn't problem solving our greatest asset?
It is, usually.
Right, so if I wake up and I have a sharp, blinding pain in my lower back, it feels incredibly irresponsible to just not try to fix it. If I don't aggressively try to solve my back pain, aren't I just giving up on my health entirely? Like, you're telling me to just surrender to a life of misery.
It's a vital distinction, and it's where the nuance of this framework really shines. Seeking medical treatment, going to a doctor, getting physical therapy, taking prescribed medication that is still operating in the external physical world.
Oh, okay.
You absolutely should do those things. The trap isn't in treating the body. The trap is the internal psychological warfare that happens when the medical world says, well, we've done all we can, and the pain is going to remain.
Because chronic pain, by its medical definition, is pain that extends beyond the expected period of healing.
Exactly. It is, in a mechanical sense, unfixable. So when your mind continues to scream, I must eliminate this sensation before I could live my life, you are applying a fixing tool to an unfixable reality.
Ah, okay, I see the difference now. It's the smoke alarm in the wall. The medical problem is the alarm. The psychological problem is me taking a sledgehammer to my own living room, trying to shut it off.
And ruining your house in the process.
Yeah.
That is the perfect visualization. You don't just fail to shut off the alarm, you destroy your habitat. The clinical material uses a very visceral analogy for this dynamic. It describes this internal struggle as being locked in an unwinnable tug-of-war with a massive, terrifying monster.
Let's paint that picture because it really stuck with me when I was reading it. So, imagine you are standing at the edge of a bottomless pit. You are holding a thick, abrasive rope.
You can feel it tearing at your hand.
Right. And on the other side of the pit, holding the other end of the rope, is this massive, hulking monster. And that monster represents your chronic pain or your severe anxiety or your trauma.
Whatever you're struggling with.
Exactly. The monster pulls on the rope, it hurts, it drags you closer to the edge. So what do? Because you are a human being with a problem-solving brain, you plant your feet, you grit your teeth, and you pull back.
You use every ounce of strength you have.
Yeah, you pull using willpower, you pull using isolation, you pull by constantly obsessing over the pain. You are just determined to pull this monster into the pit so you can finally get back to living your life.
But the reality of chronic conditions is that the monster is incredibly strong. When you pull, it just pulls back harder.
It does.
It gives you more pain. It gives you different types of pain. It gives you exhaustion. So you dedicate even more of your life to pulling the rope. Your entire existence narrows down to this one strip of dirt, your hands bleeding, your muscles shaking, just locked in combat.
And if you are listening to this right now and you've been dealing with chronic suffering, you really have to ask yourself a very difficult question. Like, how long have you been playing this game of tug-of-war?
Has it been months?
Yeah.
Years? Decades?
Have you started to get the creeping suspicion that maybe, just maybe, this particular monster cannot be beaten with brute force?
It's a terrifying realization.
It is. And this leads right into what I think is, honestly, the most vital distinction we need to make today. The difference between clean pain and dirty pain. When I first read these terms, it totally shifted my perspective on my own anxiety.
It is a foundational concept. Clean pain is the primary suffering. It is the direct physical sensation that comes naturally with your condition.
Like the raw sensory input of the aching back, the braining nerve damage, the throbbing joint.
Or, in emotional terms, it is the initial sharp sting of grief when you lose someone. It is inescapable, it is biological, and it is entirely valid.
But the dirty pain, I mean, that's the compound interest, isn't it? It's the sledgehammer to the drywall.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it. Dirty pain is everything that happens because of the tug-of-war. It is the secondary suffering created by your mind's desperate attempt to solve the clean pain.
So it's not the pain itself, it's our reaction to it.
Exactly. Dirty pain is the exhaustion from fighting. It is the lost opportunities because you were too busy pulling the rope to go to your daughter's soccer game. It is the isolation you enforce on yourself because you don't want people to see you struggle.
It's the anxiety anticipating tomorrow's pain.
Right, and the bitter depression ruminating on yesterday's pain.
And the tragedy here, which the research points out very clearly, is that for a huge portion of people dealing with chronic conditions, the dirty pain actually causes far more devastation to their lives than the clean pain ever could.
It completely takes over.
It does. If you check in with yourself right now, how much of your daily exhaustion is the actual physical ache, and how much of it is the mental gymnastics of hating the ache, fighting the ache, and trying to bargain with the ache?
When you realize that the struggle itself is generating the vast majority of your suffering, you are left with a radical, almost unthinkable solution.
You drop the rope.
You drop the rope. You don't defeat the monster. You don't pull it into the pit. You just open your hands and let the rope fall. You step back from the edge.
Now, does the monster disappear?
No. The clean pain is still there. The monster might even still be yelling at you. But the struggle, the exhausting, life-draining, all-consuming struggle that ends immediately. Your hands are free.
Okay, so if dropping the rope is the answer, why is it so impossibly hard to actually do? I mean, why do we keep pulling? Even when our hands are literally bleeding and we know it isn't working, why can't we just let go?
Because of a psychological trap known as cognitive fusion.
Cognitive fusion?
Yes, this is the exact state of being where the vast majority of human beings operate every single day completely unaware. To put it simply, cognitive fusion occurs when a person draws absolutely no distinction between what their mind thinks and how they view themselves or their reality.
You are fused, glued, welded to your thoughts.
Exactly. To use a spatial metaphor, you are looking from your thoughts rather than looking at them.
I was reading about an exercise in the sources designed to expose this, and it completely stopped me in my tracks. It asks you to finish a very simple sentence. Just, I am a person who...
And what happens when someone with chronic pain fills that in?
Well, that's the thing. If you ask someone who has been suffering from severe chronic pain for years to finish that sentence, their brain is incredibly predictable. It will almost instantly offer up, I am a person who has chronic pain.
And on a superficial level, that is a perfectly true statement. It identifies a factual aspect of their medical experience.
Right.
But the danger lies in how the brain processes that statement.
Right. Because you could also finish that sentence by saying, I am a person who has the ability to breathe.
Which is equally true.
Exactly. You could say, I'm a person who loves jazz music, or I am a person who has brown eyes, or I am a person who is a mother. You contain multitudes. You are a vast, complex organism with thousands of attributes.
But when fusion occurs, all of those other truths are eclipsed. The danger isn't the statement, I have chronic pain. The danger is when you buy into that statement as the singular defining truth of your entire existence.
It just takes over everything.
It does. The pain takes on this enormous monolithic dimension. Your entire identity collapses into this one single condition. You don't just have pain, you are the pain.
And because you fuse with that identity, you inherit this massive, heavy rule book that your brain has been quietly writing for years. Like, I was reading a clinical case study in our sources about a woman named Beth, and honestly, Beth's internal rule book broke my heart.
It's a very common pattern, unfortunately.
It is such a stark example of how dirty pain destroys a life. I want to go deep into her specific rules because I think anyone listening is going to recognize this exact pattern in themselves, whether they are dealing with physical pain or just intense self-doubt.
Beth's case is incredibly illustrative. Let's look at the rule her mind generated regarding her career. Beth's brain, acting as the problem-solving engine, created a rule. I can't work if I'm in pain.
Wow.
It also attached a corollary rule. I can't use my pain medications while I am on the job because it impairs me.
So mechanically, what does that rule force her to do? It forces her to put her entire life on pause. Her problem-solving mind has decided that the elimination of pain is a prerequisite for living.
Which means she's just waiting.
Right. She sits at home, waiting for a pain-free day that is medically unlikely to ever arrive. She becomes entirely disconnected from her career, her colleagues, her sense of purpose, her financial independence. She is abiding by a rule that is bankrupting her life.
And the rules bleed into her self-worth, too. Her mind tells her, feeling this much pain is unacceptable. I cannot possibly live a good or meaningful life with this sensation.
That is so bleak.
But it goes deeper. The mind demands a reason for the pain, so it generates another rule. This must be a punishment. I must be inherently flawed or bad, otherwise the universe wouldn't have let this happen to me.
Oh man, stop and think about the psychological weight of that for a second. The clean pain is just a misfiring nerve in her body. It's biology. But the dirty pain, the cognitive fusion, is telling her a story that she is fundamentally toxic.
That she deserves it.
Yes, that she is being cosmically punished, and that happiness is literally impossible for her. She is fused with a thought that is actively dismantling her soul.
It inevitably affects her relationships, too. Beth developed a rule regarding her marriage. There's no reason to even try to get close to my husband right now because he cannot possibly love me while I am damaged and in pain.
That's devastating.
Think about the behavioral result of that fused thought. She isolates herself. She pulls away from physical and emotional intimacy. She assumes rejection is imminent, so she begins to live as if she is already abandoned.
Thereby creating the exact isolation she fears.
Exactly. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy orchestrated entirely by a thought she believed was a fact.
There are rules about justice in her case study, too. Her brain would spin these narratives like, it isn't fair, terrible people exist in the world who are perfectly healthy, but I try to be a good person and I am punished with this agony.
Which does absolutely nothing to heal her body.
Nothing at all. But it brilliantly breeds deep, toxic resentment toward everyone around her. And then the most practically damaging rule, exercising will make the pain worse.
No.
So she becomes completely sedentary, which from a physical therapy standpoint likely causes her muscles to atrophy and makes her original physical condition deteriorate even faster.
This is the ultimate tragic irony of the human mind. I want it very clear here. Beth's mind is not evil.
Right, it's not the enemy.
It is not trying to destroy her. In fact, it generated every single one of those rules with the absolute best of intentions. It is trying to protect her.
By keeping her safe from work failures or rejection?
Yes, it is trying to protect her from failing at work, from the vulnerability of being rejected by her husband, from the physical danger of further injury. It is functioning exactly the way a primitive survival engine is supposed to function. But in the context of chronic, complex human suffering, the cost of that protection is catastrophic.
This brings up a really profound point from the research. When you look at Beth's rules, your first instinct is to analyze them for accuracy. Like, you want to say, well, is it true that her husband won't love her? Let's look at the evidence.
But the framework suggests that analyzing these thoughts for truth is completely missing the point.
Which blew my mind. It literally does not matter if a thought is true.
That is a massive paradigm shift for most people. We are just obsessed with truth and logic. But in ACT, the question is not, is this thought objectively true?
Right.
The only question that actually matters is this thought functional? Does buying into this rule, fusing with this thought, help you live the rich, full, engaged life you want to live?
If the answer is no, then the rule is a trap, period. It doesn't matter if there is a grain of truth to it or if your mind has compiled a 100-page dossier of evidence to prove it. If believing the thought shrinks your world and amplifies your suffering, it is a dysfunctional rule.
Which reveals just how insidious cognitive fusion really is. It operates like a stealth virus. Looking from your thoughts without being aware of them quietly costs you the life you want to be living.
Because you don't even realize you're doing it.
Right. At its absolute worst, fusion puts you in a position where mere electrical impulses in your brain, thoughts you might not even agree with if you actually stop to examine them, are dictating the entire trajectory of your existence.
Okay, so if believing these rules is the trap, why can't I just use logic to argue my way out of them?
What do you mean?
Like, if I realize that Beth's rule about her husband is functionally useless and probably logically flawed, why can't I just debate my brain into submission? Like, I'll just use positive affirmations.
Because you are still playing the problem-solving game. And the mind is a master of counterattacks. It is a language-based reasoning machine. When you try to use logic to defeat a thought, you are just feeding the machine more language.
Oh, I see.
So you realize the rule, I am unworthy of love because of my pain is hurting you. Your mind says, I see the problem. Let me fix that for you. Here is a new rule. I am worthy of love even though I have pain.
See, that sounds great to me. That sounds like something a therapist would tell you to write on a Post-it note and stick on your bathroom mirror. I am worthy of love even though I have pain. Why on earth is that a problem?
Because of a linguistic trap called implicit reference. Look closely at the mechanics of that new sentence. In order to hold the thought, I am worthy of love even though I have pain, your brain still have to actively reference the original negative concept.
Oh.
You're still negotiating with the fundamental premise that pain makes you unworthy. You are just taking the opposite side of the debate.
Oh, wow. You were still holding the rope. You just changed your grip.
Exactly. You're still on the edge of the pit, engaged in the tug-of-war, by constantly trying to counter a negative thought with a positive one, you are actively engaging with the monster. You are still fused to the underlying anxiety, just from a different, slightly more exhausting angle.
It must take so much energy.
It takes a massive amount of cognitive energy to constantly police your thoughts and force positive counter-narratives.
I want to prove how futile this is in real time. There's a brilliant exercise from the clinical material, and I want you, the listener, to do this with us right now.
This is a fun one.
Whether you are driving, doing dishes, or just sitting there, I am going to make a very specific, unusual request. For the next few seconds, I want you to completely, entirely block something from your mind. Are you ready? Do not think of chocolate ice cream.
Under absolutely no circumstances should you think about it.
Do not think about the rich, creamy texture. Do not think about the sweet, dark taste of the chocolate. Do not picture it sitting in a crisp waffle cone, melting just a little bit down the side onto your hand.
Don't think about it.
Do not think about how cool and refreshing it feels on your tongue on a sweltering summer afternoon. Do not think about a memory of eating it as a kid. I want you to think of literally anything else in the entire universe. Your taxes, a white wall, a dog. Just absolutely positively do not think about chocolate ice cream. Start now.
I'll give him a second.
Okay, how did that go?
I am incredibly confident that every single person listening just experienced a mental flood of chocolate ice cream.
I was practically tasting double chocolate fudge the entire time. It is literally impossible. But here's the fascinating part. It's not impossible just because we have weak willpower. It is impossible for a very specific mechanical neurological reason, isn't it?
Yes. It touches on something psychologists call ironic process theory. To intentionally not think about chocolate ice cream, your brain has to set up a monitor.
A monitor.
Yeah, it has to constantly bring the concept of chocolate ice cream to the forefront of your working memory in order to check and make sure you aren't thinking about it. The brain says, am I thinking about it? Let me scan for ice cream. Yep, there's the ice cream. Okay, suppress it. Let's check again. Still there?
The act of suppression requires the presence of the thought. This blows my mind.
It perfectly demonstrates the absolute futility of what this framework calls experiential avoidance. Experiential avoidance is the instinctual attempt to push unwanted thoughts, feelings, memories, or physical sensations out of your consciousness.
Which is totally natural.
It is the most natural human instinct in the world. When someone with chronic pain runs into the terrifying thought, this pain is going to ruin my entire future, the immediate desperate instinct is to avoid it, to push it away, to distract themselves, numb themselves, or aggressively try not to think about it.
But pushing it away is the chocolate ice cream exercise. Attempting to eliminate the experience forces your brain to constantly reference the experience. Paradoxically, the harder you try to push the monster out of your mind, the more intimately you are interacting with the monster.
You're pulling the rope again.
Exactly. The clinical text summarizes this with a brutal, unavoidable truth. If you don't want it, you've got it.
Which leads us to a sobering conclusion. Experiential avoidance is simply another form of cognitive fusion. The solutions our problem-solving mind offers us, whether that is arguing with the thought using logic, trying to defeat the thought with positive affirmations, or trying to suppress and avoid the thought entirely, they're all traps.
All of them.
They all require you to pick up the rope. They all keep you fused, glued, and hopelessly entangled with your internal suffering.
So we can't fight it. We can't ignore it. We can't logic our way out of it. What is left? If the problem-solving engine is broken, how do we survive our own minds?
Well, this is where we arrive at the core intervention of this entire framework.
The absolute antidote to fusion. It is a concept called cognitive diffusion.
Defusion. It is not a word you will find in standard dictionaries. It is a specific term coined by the architects of ACT.
Right.
If cognitive fusion is the act of being welded to your thoughts, looking from them as if they are absolute, unshakable reality, then cognitive diffusion is the act of creating critical distance. It is the practice of looking at your thoughts rather than looking from them. It is recognizing a thought as an event in the mind rather than a truth in the world.
I love the visual metaphor of wearing colored glasses. Imagine you were wearing sunglasses with bright, thick red lenses. When you were in a state of fusion, you have the glasses strapped to your face, but you forgot you were wearing them.
You just think that's how the world is.
Right. You look around and you say, wow, the whole world is red. The sky is red. The trees are red. My hands are red. The world is fundamentally a red place. You believe it completely because it is all you can see.
Because you're fused to the lenses.
Exactly. Diffusion is the act of reaching up, taking the glasses off your face, holding them in your hand, and saying, ah, I am looking at a pair of glasses that have red lenses.
That is a brilliant way to explain it. The world hasn't changed. The lenses are still red. But the red is no longer dictating your reality. You have stepped back.
You realize you're the one holding the glasses.
Yes, you are back in the driver's seat of your own perception. Diffusion is the learned ability to watch your thoughts come and go, even the terrifying, painful ones, without attaching yourself to them, without fighting them, and crucially, without putting them in charge of your behavior.
But I want to pump the brakes here and push back again because the research offers a very stern, almost harsh warning about expectation management.
It's important we cover this.
If I have chronic back pain and I successfully take the red glasses off and I distance myself from my thoughts, well, my back still hurts, right? So wait, I do all this intense psychological work and I still hurt. It feels like a ripoff.
It is the most common pitfall for anyone attempting this therapy. You have to be brutally honest with your own motives. Diffusion is not a painkiller. It is not an analgesic. And if you attempt to use it as one, you will fail.
Because if I am using diffusion to try and make the pain go away, I'm just doing experiential avoidance again. I'm secretly trying not to think of chocolate ice cream.
Precisely. If you are practicing these techniques with the secret underlying agenda of erasing your physical pain or permanently silencing your negative thoughts, you are still operating from a fused state.
You're just trying to trick the monster.
Exactly. You are just using a fancy, new age psychological tool to pull the rope in the tug-of-war. Your motive is still elimination.
So what does this all mean? If the goal isn't to get rid of the pain and it isn't to get rid of the thoughts, what is the actual point? Why do this work at all?
The true goal is space. It is creating room to breathe. Diffusion gives you enough psychological distance from that ever-buzzing, problem-solving mind machine so that you can make conscious choices.
Choices that aren't driven by panic?
Right. It gives you the space to choose actions that are aligned with your deep personal values, rather than actions dictated blindly by your pain or your fear. It puts you in a position to finally go to your daughter's soccer game, even if the pain comes with you. Diffusion doesn't heal the biological pain, but it heals the suffering. It eliminates the dirty pain.
It gives you the space to drop the rope. But I have to mention this one caveat the authors threw in because it made me laugh and it's just so practical. You don't actually want to be eternally, permanently diffused from your thoughts. This isn't about achieving some holy enlightened state where you float above reality 24/7.
No, not at all. Because remember, cognitive fusion is actually highly functional in certain contexts. The problem-solving mind is great at solving external problems. If you are replacing the alternator in your car, or you are sitting down to do a complex income tax return, fusing with your thoughts is incredibly valuable. You want to be entirely absorbed in the logical, rigid rules of arithmetic when you are doing your taxes. Diffusing from your thoughts in that scenario would be disastrous.
I am having the thought that I should carry the one. No, just carry the one. Put the number in the box.
Exactly. The goal of this framework is not to lobotomize the problem-solving mind. It's a tool, and a very good one.
It kept us alive.
Right. The goal is what psychologists call psychological flexibility. It is expanding your repertoire of responses so you can consciously choose when to fuse, when it is helpful and functional, and when to diffuse when it is causing you unnecessary suffering.
Okay, theory is great. Understanding the mechanics of the mind is fascinating. But how do we actually do this? When it's 3 a.m. and the pain is screaming and the anxiety is spiraling, philosophy doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
We need a toolkit, and the clinical material makes it incredibly clear. Reading about this or listening to a deep dive about this will not change your life. You have to practice it. It is exactly like going to the gym to build a muscle.
The source material provides a progressive series of exercises designed to build the diffusion muscle. They are structured in a specific sequence, starting from basic awareness and moving toward active linguistic shifts. We should walk through them carefully because the nuances matter.
Okay, let's do it. Tool number 1 is the baseline, the painful thinking diary.
Before you can diffuse from your thoughts, you have to actually map out what those thoughts are. Most of us are so fused we don't even realize a thought has occurred, we just react to it. The diary forces you to slow down the process.
It's like logging your food, but for your brain.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
It asks you to track 3 specific data points throughout your day. The exact thought you had, the intensity of your belief in that thought on a scale of 1 to 10, and crucially, the action that the thought compelled you to take.
To make this real, let's look back at Beth, the woman we discussed earlier. The text provided an example of her diary, and I want to spend a moment on it because the psychological weight of this is staggering. Imagine living this specific day.
So heavy read.
Yeah. 6 a.m. she wakes up. The immediate thought is, I can't go through another day like this. The intensity of her belief in that thought is a 7 out of 10. The action she takes, she immediately takes a strong pain pill to try and numb the reality.
Right.
11 a.m. The thought is, I am completely alone in this. Intensity, 10 out of 10. Action, she cries, isolates herself in her room, and avoids her husband.
That's heartbreaking.
4 p.m. The thought, normally I'd go watch my son play hockey right now, but I can't because of the pain. Intensity, 8. Action, she tries some stretching, gets fed up, and lies down in the dark.
Just letting the world pass by.
And then 6 p.m., the thought, I should just give up. This is pointless. Intensity, 10 out of 10. Action, she just stares at the ceiling, actively trying to dissociate and not feel anything.
When you lay it out chronologically like that, it is a devastating portrait of cognitive fusion. You can see the exact mechanism of how a thought, an electrical impulse in the brain, translates directly into a behavior that shrinks her world.
It's just a direct pipeline from thought to isolation.
Exactly. The thought drives her deeper into isolation, inactivity, and despair. For a patient doing this exercise for the first time, seeing their own diary fill up with these entries can initially trigger a lot of grief. You realize how pervasive the dirty pain is, how it has infiltrated every single hour of your life.
But I love how the framework reframes that grief. It says that realizing the sheer volume of these thoughts shouldn't be a source of despair. It is actually a treasure map.
A treasure map, I like that.
Every single one of those painful thoughts logged in the diary is a concrete opportunity to practice diffusion. You cannot fight an enemy that is hiding in the dark. The diary turns the floodlights on.
And once the lights are on, and you know what thoughts are dominating your life, you can move to tool number 2. This is one of the most classic, scientifically fascinating diffusion techniques in the ACT repertoire. It is called the arrogance of words.
I am obsessed with this one because it sounds utterly ridiculous, almost embarrassing to do, but the neurological mechanism behind it is brilliant.
It's very effective.
The exercise asks you to identify the core source of your pain or anxiety in a short 1 or 2 word phrase. So if your issue is physical, maybe the phrase is my back. Or if it's emotional, maybe it's I'm stupid. You take that phrase, you go into a quiet room where no one can hear you, and you say it aloud.
Just say it over and over again.
Over and over and over again, as fast as you possibly can for about 100 repetitions without stopping. Let's do my back. It goes, my back, my back, my back, my back, my back.
What you are doing here is intentionally inducing a well-documented neurolinguistic phenomenon called semantic satiation.
Semantic satiation.
Yes. Our brains are normally incredibly efficient at matching the auditory sound of a word with its massive web of associated meanings. But when you force the brain to process that same auditory input rapidly and continuously, the pattern recognition software basically gets fatigued. It shorts out. And something fascinating happens.
The words completely detach from their meaning. I tried this earlier with a word that gives me anxiety, and by repetition 40, it just turned into acoustic mush in my mouth.
It just sounds like noise.
Right. My back stopped being a symbol for my physical suffering and my fear of the future and just sounded like a weird clucking bird call. It's just syllables.
And that is the profound, liberating lesson of the exercise. It exposes a fundamental illusion of human consciousness, the illusion that meaning is inherent in the words themselves. It proves, experientially, that the phrase my back doesn't inherently contain your suffering, your loss of career, or your fear. It is just air moving over your vocal cords.
The mind attaches all that terrifying meaning to the sound. The text uses such a great metaphor here. It says, words are like schoolyard bullies. They rely entirely on intimidation and the illusion of power. When you confront them with their impotence, when you strip away the meaning through repetition and just hear the raw, silly, arbitrary sound of the syllables, the bully deflates.
They lose their power over you.
You realize you are just afraid of a sound.
Divorcing the vocalizations from the heavy psychological context alters your perspective in a very physical way. It proves to your nervous system that the thought is just a thought. It is just language. It is not the reality it claims to represent.
Which brings us to tool number 3, which requires a bit more imagination, but builds on that idea of distance, the thought observer.
This exercise is about strengthening the watcher muscle, the part of you that can observe your own mind without getting tangled in it.
The watcher muscle, I like that.
Yeah. The visualization asks you to imagine you are sitting on the sidewalk of a busy city street, watching traffic pass by. First, you just practice observing the cars objectively. There's a red Ford. There's a blue station wagon. There's a silver sedan. You just name them and let them drive out of sight.
You aren't emotionally invested in the cars.
Right. You don't analyze them. You don't wonder where the driver's going. You don't judge if it's a good car or a bad car. Just watch them pass.
Then, once you have that rhythm, you turn your attention inward. You sit quietly, and you watch the thoughts that pop into your own mind. The framework refers to the mind as a mental word machine that just runs all the time, spitting out ticker tape.
It never really stops.
Never. Whatever the machine spits out, you imagine mentally painting those exact words onto the side of one of the passing cars.
So if you are sitting there and your mind generates the thought, this is stupid, my pain is never going to go away, you visualize those words painted in big letters on a yellow taxi, and you simply watch the taxi drive down the street and disappear out of view.
You don't try to stop the taxi. You don't run after it to argue with the driver. You don't try to force the taxi off the road. You just watch it go.
But here is where the trap lies, and it is so sneaky. While you are sitting on the sidewalk doing this, your mind, being the relentless problem-solving machine that it is going to try to evaluate your performance.
Oh, of course it is.
It might generate a thought like, wow, I am really good at this visualization. I'm totally diffusing right now. I'm curing my anxiety.
And that feels like a win, like you feel good about it.
Yes, and that is a trap. The moment you fuse with the thought that you are doing well, or conversely, if you fuse with the thought, I'm doing this wrong, I can't concentrate, I'm failing, you have stopped watching the cars. You have wandered out into the middle of the street and climbed into the car.
So what do you do when you realize you're in the street?
You gently step back onto the sidewalk. You take the thought, I am really good at this exercise. You paint it on the side of a delivery truck, and you watch it drive away.
Even the positive thoughts go on a truck.
Even the positive ones. Any attempt to judge your performance is just your mind generating more thoughts. Put the judgments on the cars, too. Don't fight them. Don't validate them. Just observe them as transient events.
It's a constant practice of resetting. Okay, tool number 4 is something you can use constantly throughout your day, in real time, without having to close your eyes or visualize anything. It's a semantic shift, a tiny change in how you speak to yourself. The text calls it, "This is me thinking."
This is arguably one of the most practical and immediately effective tools in the kit because it targets the absolute certainty with which our thoughts present themselves. When you think the thought, I am in pain, or I am a failure, the grammatical structure of that sentence identifies your entire self, your entire reality, with that single state.
It's that I am trapped again.
Exactly. You collapse your identity into something that is actually only a fraction of your current human experience.
Because even if you are in severe level 10 physical pain, there are other biological realities occurring simultaneously. You are also breathing. You are also sitting in a chair. Your heart is beating. You might be listening to a deep dive. But the fusion says, no, I am only pain.
Exactly. So to create immediate distance, you intervene at the level of language. You relabel the thought. Instead of saying, I am in pain, you silently say to yourself, this is me thinking I am in pain, or I am having the thought that I'm in pain.
It seems almost too simple, just adding a few words, but when you actually try it, it completely shifts the geometry of the moment. I am in pain is a locked door. You are trapped inside it. I am having the thought that I am in pain introduces a sliver of daylight between you and the experience.
It creates that space we were talking about.
It acknowledges that the pain is not your entire identity. It is simply a data point that your mind is generating at this particular second in time.
The clinical framework is very careful to point out that we aren't suggesting the pain isn't real. The clean pain is very real. But thinking about your pain and observing the thought about your pain are two entirely different psychological states.
You aren't denying the reality, you're changing your relationship to it.
Right. Rephrasing the thought drastically reduces its authority. It demotes the thought from a command to merely a suggestion.
And speaking of small semantic tweaks that alter reality, we have arrived at tool number 5, the final tool in the Defusion toolkit. They call it Kick Your Butts, spelled B-U-T-S.
This is a masterclass in linguistic framing. We use the word but constantly in our internal monologues, and in almost every instance, it is used to indicate an opposition to a state of reality. It sets up a conflict.
Let's use an example that someone with chronic illness might face. I would love to go out to dinner with my friends tonight, but I am in so much pain.
That's a very common one.
If you are listening to this right now, think about your own but statements. I would love to apply for that new job, but I'm too anxious. What is that word actually doing in the sentence?
It acts as a massive, impenetrable brick wall. The word but implies a causal impossibility. It dictates that the second half of the sentence, the pain, the anxiety, physically prevents the first half of the sentence, which is the dinner or the job.
It just shuts it down.
It makes the valued action impossible. It convinces your brain that there is absolutely no practical way forward until the pain is eliminated.
It's the problem-solving engine again. Pain equals no dinner. We must solve pain to achieve dinner.
Exactly.
So the intervention here is incredibly simple, but profoundly difficult to accept at first. You track your but statements, and you forcibly replace the word but with the word and.
Let's hear how that sounds. I would love to go out to dinner with my friends tonight, and I am in so much pain.
I would love to apply for that job, and I'm experiencing intense anxiety. It genuinely gives me chills to hear the difference. The whole energy of the sentence changes.
It alters the foundational meaning of the statement in radical ways. Changing that one single conjunction suggests something completely different about the universe and your capabilities.
It really does.
It suggests that two seemingly contradictory truths can and do exist in the exact same space at the exact same time. The person can, in fact, go to the dinner, and they can bring their pain with them.
It is the ultimate rejection of the tug-of-war. The diffused mind says, the pain is present, the monster is here, and we are going to dinner anyway.
Which changes everything.
It fundamentally explodes the possibilities for your life. Because if you can accept the validity of those and statements, you suddenly have a path forward that doesn't require you to miraculously cure your unfixable condition first. You don't have to wait to be fixed to start living.
It is a profound lesson in how the syntax of our thoughts has the power to either imprison us or liberate us. Altering a single word can dramatically alter the trajectory of your behavior.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of psychological ground today in this deep dive. Let's pull all these threads together.
Good idea.
We started by realizing that treating our complex, messy inner lives like a broken car engine leads to a nightmare. We take our brilliant evolutionary problem-solving skills, we point them at our unsolvable pain, and we generate dirty pain.
The tug-of-war.
Yeah, we end up in an exhausting, unwinnable tug-of-war with a monster, pulling until our hands bleed, putting our entire lives on pause.
We explored how our minds try to protect us by creating rigid, arbitrary rules, like Beth's rules, that actually end up isolating us and stealing our vitality because we fuse with them. We learned the hard way that we cannot suppress these thoughts. We cannot out-logic them.
And we cannot simply not think of chocolate ice cream because avoidance is just fusion in a different mask.
Right.
So the radical answer is to drop the rope. The answer is cognitive diffusion. It is the practice of taking off the red-tinted glasses and looking at the lenses.
It is painting our darkest fears on the side of passing taxis and letting them drive away.
It is stripping the schoolyard bullies of their power by repeating words until they are just meaningless acoustic mush.
It is adding the phrase, I'm having the thought that, to our internal monologue.
And tearing down our walls of, but to walk through the open doors of and.
And as we wrap up, I want to reiterate the ultimate promise of this framework. The goal of this work is not to fix the unfixable. If you carry chronic physical pain or deep emotional scars, these tools are not magic spells that will erase your history or heal your nerves.
That's so important for people to hear.
It is. The goal is much more profound and much more achievable. The goal is to reclaim the psychological real estate you need to live a valued, vital, fully engaged life alongside whatever pain you might carry. It is about taking the wheel back from your automated thoughts.
Which brings me to a final lingering thought. I want to leave you, the listener, with a provocative question inspired by the very end of the clinical text, a section titled Being the Watcher. I want you to really chew on this as you go about the rest of your day, as you commute, or as you go to sleep tonight.
A powerful question.
If you practice these tools, like if you can successfully step back from your own mind, if you can sit on the sidewalk and observe your pain painted on a passing car, if you can listen to your brain generate the thought, I can't do this, and you can watch that thought objectively without believing it, then who or what is the you that is doing the observing?
It is the ultimate existential question.
Right. If you are the one watching the thoughts, then clearly, logically, you are not the thoughts themselves. The observer cannot be the object being observed. So if you are not your thoughts and you are not your pain, who are you? It's a mystery I want you to sit with. Think back to the broken car engine from the beginning of this deep dive. If your car is broken, it's a mechanical problem. But your internal world, your consciousness, It is vast. It is wonderfully untamed. You contain multitudes. You are not the broken engine, and you are not the frantic mechanic trying to fix it. You are the watcher. Keep watching.